We have to do the discussions. I have them in the studio. And Dr. Okoboy is a member of parliament for Lejokuku. Good morning to you.
Hey, my brother.
Yeah.
Roland, good morning. Yes.
I hope they're fixing the Lekma roads. But as you make up your mind to respond, I have Edem Agbana here. It's the first time you'll be on the show with us?
No, this is my third time.
This is your third time.
Yeah.
Okay, Deputy National Youth Organizer for the NDC. Edem, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
I love your kaftan. Well, who
Stallion Outlook.
Stallion Outlook.
One young man doing amazing stuff.
I see them in your pictures all the time.
Yes.
All right.
Charlie, the guy's handsomeness reflects the state of the economy. You know this?
Yeah, it be for him. It be for him. But we'll get to play some insights from the communications minister, and there was the whole interaction she had at the Meet the Press series. And we also do know that this debate is up there, still dominating the discussion platforms about that directive that has been given to the telcos or the telecommunication companies about how they need to do the deductions of the CST. Because following the review of the budget in July, subsequently it was up from 6 to 9%. And there have been some miscommunication in the process and how it was communicated to us, the consumers, you know. But let's get some insights from the Minister of Communications. When we come back, we'll be looking at the fallout from this and going forward, how should ordinary members like us, not the politicians, you and I watching, and then how we should take it and going forward, I'll ask my discussant how we should resolve these difficulties that the minister tend to be having with the telecommunication company. So those insights up next.
It must be said that from 2008 to 30th September 2019, mobile network operators had been absorbing the 6% CST. And as far as the subscriber experience was concerned, but they suddenly decided to stop that practice when nothing had changed, apart from the 3% increase in the rate of the existing tax. GetFund, NHIL, and VAT levies are all deducted based on usage and not on an upfront deduction upon recharge. The ministry met network operators and the regulator on 7th and 8th October 2019, just a week after this tax came into effect, on this unusual practice, which flew in the face of industry experience. And we were informed by the network operators that they took advantage of the 3% increase to pass on the entire tax to subscribers. This has effectively increased their profit margins at the expense of subscribers, when there has been no other change in their operational environment. Whatever they may have lost in absorbing the 6% CST, they more than made up for it by refusing to roll over credit that had been paid for by consumers but remained unused on the expiration of the bundle period. They are now effectively robbing consumers by passing on the full tax while retaining the unused data and voice bundles on that. And if they persist, the requisite sanctions will be applied. If they want to continue doing business in this country, they will respect our laws. All of them are multinationals. They operate in other jurisdictions. They know better than to flout the laws of the jurisdictions in which they operate, as sanctions attached to it. We've had an extremely cordial relationship with them. I used to be in the industry. We work with them to resolve many challenges and are ready to assist them to navigate through this space as well. But we will not countenance this imposition of untold, unwarranted suffering on the people of Ghana. There are examples of companies which roll over unused data bundles, even here in Ghana. Vodafone fixed broadband customers are able to keep their remaining data only if they top up before their bundle expires. This means at the expiry date of your bundle, if you don't top up, you lose all your remaining data. The new policy directive only means that all subscribers will enjoy what was limited to only Vodafone fixed broadband subscribers, and there will be no discrimination in the treatment of subscribers. MTN fixed broadband customers also required a specified minimum airtime on their fixed broadband number before the expiry date to keep their remaining data, whereas prepaid customers lost all remaining data after the date of expiry unless they had opted for rollover. The directive means all MTN subscribers will enjoy their unused voice and data upon recharge, regardless of the type of service they are on. Surfline customers who purchase a bundle before the expiry date enjoy automatic rollover, but after expiry date, they lose the remaining data bundle. This practice must stop with a directive, and all customers must enjoy the unused voice and data bundles they have already paid for, regardless of time of recharge. Airtel Tigo is currently running big-time data bundles for data that doesn't expire. The new data bundles are available to all Airtel Tigo prepaid subscribers, including new and existing customers. And all data packs have no validity date. This is what all operators are now required to do with the directive.
Well, it's important that we mainstream these directives and the concerns being raised by the minister and her comments into some proper perspective. And I'm sure, Dr. Okoboy, you listened to the minister yesterday. What do you make generally the posture of the Ministry of Communications, the minister herself, the deputy, and then also on the other hand, the telecommunication companies?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ronald. Let me say good morning to my brother. You know, I am a hypertension ambassador, high blood pressure. So everywhere I go, I spend the first minute just stating some 3 facts about high blood pressure. And the good news today, I brought a copy of my book on high blood pressure.
Oh, you have? Okay. Yeah. That one? I think you spoke about it.
High blood pressure in black people, you know. And we have copies at Kingdom Books and at Shell, the one at La Palme. So, 1, high blood pressure is without symptoms. You never know you have it until you check. And then 2, stroke, kidney disease, heart problems, the majority of them are caused by high blood pressure. That's untreated high blood pressure. So if you are on medications, make sure you take your drugs. And then thirdly, knowledge is good. Most people I've come across who know they are hypertensive but refuse to take their medications do so because they don't have enough knowledge about the good things they can get from adhering or complying to treatment. So let's stay alive. Most of these sudden deaths we hear in town, most of them, they have to do with high blood pressure. And we are in the Breast Awareness Month. Fact, both males and females can get breast cancer. Awareness. It's not only for females. Guys can also get it. But it's very rare in the guys. So a few facts also about breast cancer. It's very common in women who have never had children, who have never breastfed. Once you breastfeed for average 2 years, twice, you have at least 2 children, you significantly are lifted from the risk group. Yeah, but you can still have it even with 5 children, but it's just probabilities. And then thirdly, I think as a country, we must start to talk about how to support those with breast cancer. I think the treatments are lifelong. So those who are caught in that particular condition, most of them are not having it easy at all. I did a medical outreach this Saturday. A woman came to me seeking for support. She's a breast cancer patient. She said she's been driven down the poverty line, below the poverty line. All her assets are gone because for treatment. So as a country, those with HIV were suffering the same fate. Many conditions were suffering until nations came together and supported them. So that's the way we have to go. So shout out to all our women and to guys too, because we also have breast. Yeah, my communications minister and your communications minister, I think what she's trying to put across is to more or less ask for fairness. That's how I use the word fair. Because we had the communication service tax. We've had it in this country since I think 2008. Yeah. Now the telcos do pay the levies to government, but you and I, when we buy the credits or we load our credits, we don't see a message say they've deducted upfront. Now, it was raised from 3% to 6%. That's the CST. And when it came to 6%, we still didn't have messages telling you that deducting upfront, like the minister was saying. But when it got to 9%, we realized that the modus operandi of the telcos has changed. Now, when you go for the credits or you buy the card, right when you load, you are told, okay, they've deducted their 9% and taken to government. So what the minister is saying is that just be consistent. Keep to your own standards. In any case, what I have heard, I don't know how true it is, but as someone who's done a little economics, I'm not an economist. I just read so I can make sense out of governance. If a company, that's what I've heard, I learned some telcos claim they were absorbing the 6%. That's why they didn't show it on our phones. But Roland, it would be very weird for a private company that is into business to first of all add value and make profits, to say that when government charges you and I, levies us, they pay the levy on our behalf. It's difficult to appreciate that. I believe that they find a way. They will by always have a way of getting that money from us and give it to government. Now, even if you were paying the 6%, let's assume without admitting, why wouldn't you then show the 3% that we have brought? You get it? Now it's 9%. So I assume
they should continue with the status quo.
Exactly.
And then just let this one reflect.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's just about, look, I don't know all.
And that's what you call fairness.
Consistency.
But you do know that the telecommunication companies are also in business for profit.
No.
Or to make sure that their return on investment.
Really, I don't have a very rigid position. Mm-hmm. I have heard people who say that as telcos, they even have the right to display what they will be taking to government. So all those dynamics we can sit around the table and talk about. But I believe in consistency. Standards helps to shape your integrity. You are a company. I always use the example of a referee in a football match.
Is it not because the minister is doing this because it makes government look bad?
No, I'm coming.
The citizens see it and then they are outraged.
My brother is here. When they increased CST from 3% to 6%, and the telcos didn't display, he might not know why. It's true. Maybe he didn't know why. But for fairness sake and for integrity's sake, he must have an issue, although he's in opposition, with a company that decides during a particular period to not to display what they are paying to government, but now turn around and display. And you know what?
Are you saying the companies are NDC?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. You see, corporate bodies should not be, we should not draw them into our politics. I don't believe in that. They should be allowed to operate. But don't also draw unnecessary attention to yourself. That's why I said the example of a referee in the game. The more the spectators talk about a referee, the more it tells us that you are doing something that's funny. A good referee usually is invisible in the game, but the game goes well. It's the players that we rather talk about. Why would a company that used to not to display a charge now display it and raise unnecessary attention? I will not go the tangent of they are being political, they are anti-MPP. No, I'm talking about fairness, consistency, and sticking to their own standards. If they didn't display in the past, we expect them not to do so now. That is my position.
Adam.
Well, Roland, good morning to you and to our cherished viewers, and to my senior brother in MP for Lejokuku. He started by talking about high blood pressure in black people, and I think that the education that he is giving is very important. And because personally, I lost my dad a few years ago to this same high blood pressure problem, and it was because at the time we didn't really have knowledge about it and how to manage it. So I lost my dad only when he was 47 years. And I think it's a big problem. So I would encourage him to continue educating more people. And the media should also take interest in some of these things, because these days the sudden death in town is just too much. Not long ago, I think a week or two ago, we lost a student in the University of Ghana as well due to a similar thing. She just was trying to catch a shuttle to go to class and she collapsed.
And that was the
end. That was the end of her and all that. So I think it's a good thing that the Honorable MP is doing. On the CST, I think that the Minister for Communications and her directive to the telcos is completely unnecessary. It's unnecessary because you decided to increase the tax, the CST, from 6% to 9%, which is a 50% increment. Now the telcos have two options. One, to either deduct it instantly, like they're doing, the option that they have chosen now, or input that into their cost build up. So if, for example, before the increment of the tax, a 60 seconds call from, say, the same network, I mean, let's say from MTN to MTN, if 60 seconds was to cost 1 Ghana cedi, they can as well increase that now for the 1 Ghana cedi to increase to, say, 1 Ghana cedi is 40 pesos. And yet when you recharge your credit, it still comes as
10 Ghana.
As 10 Ghana cedis. However, the cost of the call has been increased, and that you cannot know, that you cannot see, because
so it means that
that is not visible.
The amount of time you spent on the call will reduce.
On the call will reduce. Yes,
increase. Okay.
while the cost will increase. So these are the only two options that are available, because at the end of the day, when you look at the CST, it is a user, the end user, that is supposed to pay. So whether you pay it instantly or you pay it as part of the services that you enjoy, it is the same
but
thing.
You do realize that
you
any consumer who looks at the phone or the message after recharge,
yes,
and it becomes alarmed, and that was the panicky situation that we were witnessing.
Yes,
it did make government look bad, as if we've never had tax increments.
No, but it's been increased. It's not like it made government look bad, because already, Roland, when you monitor social media, especially you even monitor the narrative of young people, a lot of people continue to complain that data is too expensive in Ghana, call services are too expensive in Ghana. So even if we only had a situation where the 50% increment in CST was only going to lead to an increment in this cost build-up without the instant deduction, still the problem of people complaining that, I mean, the alarming situation or the panicky situation will still have been created. So like I'm saying, the telcos have only two options: either to put it in their cost build-up or do the instant deduction. In any way, it is still the end user that will pay for it. Now, you increase the taxes. It is now up to the telcos to determine how they intend to run it, because at the end of the day, we're running an open economy, it's an open market. If today one of the network, let's say network telco company A, decides to not to do the instant deduction, and then people realize that over time maybe they have increased the data cost or they have increased their charges for their calls, it can also make them lose their customers. So they decided that let us make people know that this increment or this high cost of data, high cost of calls and everything that you're getting is not our fault, but it's because of a tax that has been introduced by the government. So they have two options. Instead of pleading or negotiating with them as to how government and the telcos can sit down and say, for example, with this 50% increment, telcos absorb about 25 or 50% of that increment, and let government also, or let the end user also get about just half of that and pay. But here you're giving a directive to make it look as if government has that absolute right to determine the cost or the charges for these telcos, which I think that is not proper, to the extent that she's almost threatening that those telcos that refuse to comply with the directive will lose their licenses. I think that it is not very good, I mean, for the business environment.
But they are the oversight ministry.
You have oversight responsibility over them, but don't forget also that these businesses are not charity. They don't exist to please you as a government, and they are neither existing to also make you as a government look good. They exist to make profit. So if you introduce or you increase a tax which will increase their cost input, and they decide to transfer to the end user, which actually is the intention for which you introduce the tax, why would you be dealing with them as if they just stood up and they increased the tax themselves? They did not. You increase your tax, that component goes to you, and they've been paying that to you consistently over the years. So my point is that, Roland, government should rather sit with the telcos and see that, well, we have increased this CST by 50%, from 6% to 9%. How do we share the cost such that you, the telcos, can also still absorb some and then let the end user not suffer too much for it? I think that is better than
on the point that dialogue should have been the way forward.
The way forward, rather than because the truth is that the telcos are not under any obligation to respect that particular directive. Because at the end of the day, when they even decide not to do the instant deduction, Roland, what will happen is that the cost will still be transferred to us as the end users, and so nothing really changes. The same hardship that we're complaining about will still be there. So I think that the minister should actually sit or get to the table and engage dialogue rather than giving the directives and threatening, because other companies coming in knowing that your business environment is not friendly, where we have a situation where a minister can give some of these directives and all of that, it will not be good for the business environment, especially when you want to.
Haven't said.
No, it's not. They will not complain, but others will want to come in, and when they are coming in, and you are measuring
that it doesn't create a favorable environment.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. When you have a business environment which is very vulnerable to directives by ministers or politicians, I mean, others will not be encouraged to come in and invest.
Well, good point in there, but the minister also went forward to make sure that beyond the ministry or government's position on the subject of CST, the consumers also are in a better position to have quality of service from these companies at the end of the day.
Well, you know, previously we used to have cigarette smoking can be harmful to your health on the parks, and then after many years they realized that the message is clear, but visuals give a different impact than the writing. So now they show a lung that is severely fibrosed, like it's a medical, like it's changing or it's getting destroyed. Now, in the past, when they used to charge the 3 or 6%, Ghanaians were still paying for. If it was going to come with hardship, we were bearing the hardship. But the impact we were feeling would not be the same if at that time they had shown it on your phone that you are bearing hardship, but I'm also reminding you through text that you just paid this to government. Are you getting? That's why I talk about consistency. So whether they absorb it into their operational cost or share with government, bottom line is that just as you did previously, use the same modus. You can transfer all to the citizen, you can let government discuss and all that, but operate the way you used to. If you've shifted, tell us why. As we speak, the telcos haven't told us why in the past they conveniently or comfortably didn't tell us the hardships we were bearing, but now will tell us. And it's even more worrying when now they tell us of the 3% we've added plus the 6% we used to bear covertly. You understand? If I say covertly in code, we couldn't see. So the impact is not the same, my brother. If we were paying for this, how do you call it, 9%, people will complain, hey, Roland, these days it's not easy. But when they are complaining and you also show it to them, the impact is different. Now, the rollover, I think the minister talked about data that sometimes is unused or is unused.
At the time of expiration.
Exactly. Yes. And said other telcos actually make you roll over, like you get your data.
In some other countries.
Yes. No, in Ghana, he mentioned Airtel and Tigo. I stand to be corrected, but I think she said even in Ghana here, Airtel and Tigo, they allow you to roll over.
Yeah.
Now, competition has a lot of benefits for the client, for the end user. Competition will let people give us value for money. And so I'm not surprised that another company is doing it, a particular one is not doing it. With time, they will be drawn in. But we should remember, sometimes the regulator or the ministry can also talk a telco into doing what will bring value for the client. Where I agree with him is that beyond the policy statement, normally sitting at the table helps. It makes the speed of implementation quicker. So I would urge the ministry. They are not wrong for speaking about these policy directives and initiatives, but obviously we have to sit at the table and then get them to.
All of us have gone to tertiary institutions, or at least we all do know what do exist. As of this morning, we do know that the Deputy Minister in charge of Tertiary Education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, has given a directive to all universities and other tertiary institutions to have a sexual harassment policy. And we know that it's a fallout from this investigative piece or the undercover work that has been done involving a Legon professor or 2 Legon professors, etc. And subsequently, they've been interdicted or suspended. Investigations are ongoing by the Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee, etc. But making sure that all the institutions have it is a way to go, wouldn't you say?
It is just one of the many options that are available to the investors. I have been a student leader. I know Dr. Okoboy was also a student leader. At a point, I was a member of the Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee of the University of Ghana when I served as
Anti-Sexual Harassment Task Force.
I think that when you watch the BBC documentary and the fallout, the first question we ought to ask ourselves is that, I mean, does the problem exist? We know it exists, not just in Legon, not just University of Lagos, in all our universities, Ghana, UK, South Africa, wherever. There is a problem of sexual harassment, and that we must admit. In fact, even as SRC president of the University of Ghana, there were many times that students walk into your office in tears to come lodge complaint or talk about the fact that they were failed in some courses that they thought they could have done better because they rejected proposal of the lecturers, or some come to complain that their colleagues got grades that they think that did not deserve, but because they may have some amorous relationship with lecturers. So the problem is there across our universities.
You mean it was speculated, or some of the students,
students,
what they told you, they had authenticated?
In fact, students have reported some of these cases to
the committee,
to the committees, and some were investigated. I know in the past some lecturers were sanctioned, but all those things you do it in the quiet, because we also live in a country where the moment you blow out some of this punishment, a certain perception is created of the entire university. So today, everybody thinks that, also University of Ghana, ladies who had first class or ladies who are doing well may be having some relationship with their lecturers. Meanwhile, some of these ladies studied and they worked hard to achieve whatever academic laurels that they got for themselves. But you see, the problem is not just about having the policy. For Legon, for example, the policy has been there. It is still there, but the problem still exists. It is about implementation, one. It is also about the university's own structure in having these cases reported. Let me tell you, most of the students are even afraid to report these cases of sexual harassment because of the fear of victimization. Not necessarily from the lecturer that they will be victimized
by who?
No, you see, not necessarily by the lecturer that they are reporting. So, for example, you report lecturer A for sexually abusing you, and he informs his colleagues, and they have discussions. So you are afraid that, so you may have reported in this course, but your next course you are failing because it is something that the lecturers, when they meet and they talk about it. And so the students are afraid of victimization. So when you even look at the University of Ghana's Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee, most of the complaints that have been lodged are complaints from students against their colleague students for harassment, not necessarily against the lecturers.
Because that's easier to manage.
That is easier to manage because they are afraid of victimization from the lecturers. Again, we also live in a society where if you are a student and you report some of these cases, people are even beginning to question how you dress. But how I dress as a lady influence a lecturer's inability to control himself? So himself or herself. I mean, it's not very common with the female.
The guys haven't complained.
It's because we are not complaining. But so, Roland, I think that this policy, I mean, having the universities having the anti-sexual harassment policy is there. It's not bad.
It's not enough.
But it's not enough. We ought to move beyond just having the policy to address the structural challenges that the university has. Maybe one of the things that we can do, Roland, to address this problem is that you have the lecturers. If you go to, let's say, political science department, for example, then you have, let's say, level 200 class with over 1,500 students. In Legon, we only work with our student ID cards. Is it possible that you have the marking scheme clearly outlined and not the same person who lectures you doing the marking? Is that also possible? It's one of the options that we may have to consider, because
like they have a neutral body to
not a neutral body. So maybe, Roland, you're teaching a level 100 political science class, but you have to mark the level 200 political science class papers where
in the specific
in
instances.
the specific instance, because you are also capable and you work with the marking scheme. With that, the students know that the person teaching them does not have any direct responsibility towards them in terms of grading.
How do you
them.
verify whether those who will be set aside to be doing the independent marking, or so to speak, are also objective?
No, but if you are not teaching the class, it reduces, the probability will reduce. Again, one of the things also, when you speak to some of the male lecturers, sometimes when students even write the exam, we also have some of the students trying to seduce their lecturers. Sometimes, I know a lecturer who complained to me that he was going to mark his script. He opened one of the answer booklets and saw a picture, a nude picture of the student with her number and name at the back, inviting, and the girl had written absolutely nothing, expecting that, oh, when this lecturer sees this, he's going to place a call and I'll get a grade for it. Speak to the lecturers as well. Not long ago, Dr. Mwakuhini was sharing a story with us. She's the chairperson of the Anti-Sexual Harassment Committee. She told us that a student was sexually harassing her lecturer, and the lecturer could not report. So he confided in another lecturer who reported the issue to the committee. And when they called him, he was virtually shy that, oh, you know, he thought that as a man in his 40s, if he reports that a young, beautiful lady was seducing him or trying to sexually harass him, he didn't even have the courage as a man to report. So it is two ways. The students also do harass their lecturers, and the management also.
But it's more gravitating towards the lecturers actually harassing.
That is the perception. That is because maybe the lecturers are also not speaking out. So I think that the structure of the university should change when it comes to the reporting systems.
Okay. A campus or the atmosphere in a university or tertiary institution is supposed to be one of free speech in which people will have their rights as students, and then also the lecturers will be there, etc. How do we create that right atmosphere? If we have policies in there, how do we ensure that we implement the content of those policies to the letter?
Roland, you know, we have poor folks in every society. Whenever people are talking about poverty alleviation, we are talking about the levels of poverty. You want it to drop below some threshold. It's the same with any act of immorality or injustice in the community. We don't want a situation where sexual harassment would rise to the levels where we more or less countenance it or see it as normal. You know, I don't want to start. There are many things in Ghana people see as normal. If you invite someone to a program and they are 1 hour late, that's the Ghana time in code. That's how people think here. Now, that is why I support any effort to try to deal with sexual harassment. And Roland, there are certain acts of injustice or wrong. It is difficult to give evidence or to prove them unless you have shown particular interest and gone in there to fish it out.
And this one is in relation to?
Let me give you an example. FIFA. Those involved in the FIFA issues were the system themselves. I mean, they had weight and integrity. Blatter. There is no way you as a participant can prove that Blatter has issues. It took the FBI. And even that is because America lost a particular tournament. And they had to track the members, their fund, the flow of funds and all that. And when they brought it to the table, the whole system had to go.
Okay, there was a city in America that lost a bit. They lost a bit.
Exactly. Exactly. Look at our own context, GFA. Look, I like soccer a lot. Some of the things that happen tells me that, look, there's something, the symptoms show that there's a problem. And even those who were speaking to the problem were about to be hanged somewhere in this your media house. It took someone who went in to bring out the evidence. It's the same with sexual harassment. It's one of those things that is difficult for the victim or for the outsiders to tell you. If you are interested, look, if media house like multimedia wants to go in, there are ways to, I will not say it here, there are ways to uncover and tell that this is the level of harassment around. And I have sisters, I have daughters, so I really support any and every move to try to give a clear signal that assuming you harass women, when you step in multimedia, know that the consequences are grave. Look, drugs, I don't support, let's say, it's not like I'm saying hang or kill those who deal in drugs. But when you go to Malaysia, the Saudis, those places, look, drug peddling, although exists, it's way low. The reason is that they've given a clear signal that it is something they don't want to see at all.
They don't agree to LGBT issues.
Exactly. And look, the other
Saudi
one.
Arabia.
Look, it is It is not a discussion. You don't even start it. They tell you this is how this is the rule we operate with. Look at stealing. One guy came from the Qatari, one of those places, said, Doc, when you put your phone by your window, you go to work and come back and pick it. I'm not saying we should do the same here, but they cut this. I'm not saying we should do that.
Law.
Yeah, I'm not saying, yes, it's clear to say, because I know someone report Dr. Ko, that's not what I'm saying. But the point I'm making is that people sometimes give you a clear signal that there are many things I tolerate, but as for this, I go the extreme.
And you're saying that needs to be the atmosphere
for sexual harassment
on the campuses.
Exactly, not only on the campuses, in every organization, and organizations
in the society.
Yes, in the society, and organizations should pride themselves that when you come to multimedia, we are known to be a zero tolerance organization for sexual. And you don't say it by mouth; you should prove it. We went into this and discovered this is the list. These are the victims. If you are like that, as you cross into multimedia, put yourself in order. That's what we want. And this attitude of, well, if you have been a victim, come forward. I know a lady who was harassed in one of the government institutions in Accra. They set up a panel at the region, and guess what? Those she went to face. When they finished the discussions, one told her, I'll be traveling to Cape Coast. If you are interested, call me. She has been harassed at the district level. They called people who are in quote moral and have sound judgment to come and sit on the matter. And the issue was she being sexually harassed. She talked about her experience. And after the meeting, one of those on the panel told her that I'm going to Cape Coast. So all these things, let's see how we can go and settle at Cape Coast. You see, so it tells you that it is neck deep. And anytime any act or wrong is neck deep, it's not enough to say, come forward. And Roland, look, women, you know, women have peculiar issues. A man can say that, look, a lady tried to harass me. Men, you know the way most of us, we don't care about. For a lady to come up and say that I've been sexually harassed, the trauma, just the confession is a lot of trauma. And then now being part of the process of unveiling the act, every day of appearance is trauma.
Especially in our society.
Exactly. And people, where is the lady? If you come for lectures, that is it. Everybody's looking at you. Yeah. So there are many people who are living with a lot of wrongs that has happened to them. And the way to help those people is for us to go in there and bring out the evidence. It's not enough to say, if you have been harassed, come forward.
Yeah. Mr. Agbada, as a society, what should be the posture? Because it looks like during the discussion of all this, or in the discussion of all this, we seem to be sidetracking and identifying the institutions thereof. But we need to have a societal and a general governance policy direction towards this. That gives the indication that the whole society is having a certain thinking or shift by way of the paradigm towards this level. Because it looks like now it's only the tertiary institutions that need to take care of their business.
No, yes, so I agree with you that people are sidetracking and they make it, and I made that point earlier, that because
they make the university issue or tertiary
making it look like it's a tertiary issue and all of that. But even in some of our senior high schools, this problem exists. And I think that it's a cultural issue, it's a societal problem, where many, unfortunately, we are in a generation where many see women, and the best way to describe them is to use sexual objects. Also, people want to view women from the point of sexuality, and so they don't even want to give women that platform to go beyond the sexuality. So it's about, if it's about some body shape or something, that is how they want to be describing women. It's a societal problem. But I also think that punishment for some of these things has not been enough to serve as a deterrent. In fact, not long ago I discovered, in fact, when this BBC issue came, documentary came, was when I discovered that even using some words to describe women amounted to sexual harassment. Yeah. I mean, even me, I didn't know. Not too many people know. So I think that
using what?
Some words,
or expressions,
or expressions like, to describe.
Like what? Dear sweetie.
No, even that. Some people tell me that, but that is even to the extreme. Yeah. Yes.
The Kofi Kapito incident.
Exactly. I mean, I was at the conference that Kofi Kapito said
one of the
awards. When Kofi Kapito said it was a bit off and all of that.
It was awkward.
Very awkward. That you were just called to present an award. The first thing was to describe, yes, a lady and her body shape and all that. I will tell you after. So I think that is a societal problem that we must address. Let's intensify education about it. maybe ignorantly, many of the men also use some of these expressions without knowing the implication, and we don't seem to have consequences for some of these actions. Imagine that the lecturers who I said have been punished before for sexual harassment, we drag them, name them, shame them, and all of that. It will at least deter some others from doing so. But my humble plea is that I also know that some ladies take advantage of the existence of the problem to make false allegations against some of the lecturers or some people. So these days it's so common to see ladies alleging that the reason why I was denied a job is because of sexual harassment. The reason why I was denied this grade is because, or I failed my papers because the lecturer wanted to sleep. Some of them may not be true. So let's put in place measures to ensure that we weigh these issues based on its own merit, not view it as a holistic thing, and then we address it as a societal problem.
How should the society gravitate towards this? Knowing that it's almost becoming a canker, and so the world is moving away, and this is how we need to address it.
Roland, we should not treat those who perpetrate acts of sexual harassment with kids' gloves. That's the way we can discourage people from going that tangent. So that when they talk about sexual harassment, we should not be quick to throw it away. You know, there are people who go like, well, I mean, this is likely it's not true, and sometimes the woman. Don't say much. Just let us go into it. Don't have a prejudice that, oh, it's likely to be the woman or it's likely to be the man. And second, Roland, in the modern world, the values that are upheld by an organization serve as capital for its business. So that there are people who deal with multimedia and not other houses. If there is a clear message which is being sent to the world, that one of our key pillars is that we are strongly anti-sexual harassment values. And that is how, it's not everything the government legislates. A government cannot say, well, now we're going to legislate to make sure that, no. But as corporations, as business entities, we must do well to prove that core at our values is that of sexual. And you know what? Forgive me, but I know, I've heard that there are ladies, before there are media houses, before you can be consistent in reading the news, the producer sometimes wants to be someone that you have.
You mean you suspect or?
I mean,
it's been speculated.
It's been speculated. The point is that
the media houses.
Yes, the media houses.
But not since I haven't seen it yet.
Since I'm at Journeys, except for Journeys. No, but
well, I haven't seen it.
No. But I mean, and I know someone who worked in a media house. She was a makeup artist. He said these things. I mean, there are occasions where she told me that there are people who fight among themselves because they are trying to use certain things to get to be at the front, to be captured by the cameras and all that. I know someone who told me that in the church, she's been harassed by elders in the church, not backbenchers, ordinary church members.
Leaders.
Like, yes, like
Church
you
leaders.
and I. Church leaders. One lady, I said, why don't you come to church? This particular elder who is always asking me, let's travel, worrying me and all that. So sometimes, even coming to church, I'm not motivated.
Sometimes do we realize that the ladies themselves are not...
but
I'm not receptive to
Roland,
such
and this lady told
invitations.
me, look, all the ladies who have told me about their sexual harassment, it's because the way you relate to them, they can tell you are not the kind who wants to pounce on them.
advantage.
Yes.
Exactly. You know, so it's also about what's the word? If they are comfortable with you, they tell you some of these things because they know.
So some of the ladies are comfortable with what they tell you.
Oh, Roland, you see, Roland.
This mischief.
This is a difficult one. Yeah, but Roland, it's because.
Bana claims that it's
No, but you know my job. You need to build it.
Well, but let's listen to the. Okay, so we'll move on. I wanted us to look at roads. It will be the last batch of. You know, the president has been traveling across the. He's been to Ashanti region. Was in the Volta region a week or two ago, and then just Eastern region, being cutting sword left, right, center. The rains to have set in. I mean, ideally, but back in the day, in the textbooks, during my time, for example, in the 90s when I finished secondary school, we're told June, July, April, May, June, and all that. But now even in September, October, every month it's raining in the year.
The variations
and we're beginning to see the roads that were done 2-3 years ago have not were shoddy. Now the ones that were being done and stopped 2-3 years ago if they were continued, would have been better for the ordinary citizen, because then it means it is now going to cost us more for us to do it. It's shown better. The president says that, well, a commitment has been made by his government and on some of these related issues. Let me start, since it's the president who is making all these utterances. I'm very particular about the Volta roads. Apart from Adomi, the road is bad. Of course, the Anglo roads are better. So that one we can take some solace in.
You know, I always tell people, I'm one of those folks. I don't think only about myself, but I think about the collective.
Are you talking about fixed Lekman now?
Yeah, I think about the collective. And I remember the first time the contractor came on the Lekman road, my first comments were that my heart is also with the many of those MPs or other residents across the country who are suffering as a result of bad roads. Roland, as a country, we have to be honest with ourselves. Some of the road projects that are given to especially Ghanaian contractors and some foreign contractors, Roland, let's say contractors in general, the work they do, Roland, you realize that, I mean, shoddy is even an understatement. There's no describing. And what is even more what's the word? I mean, it's saddening is that you have Ghanaian technocrats at state institutions having signed and approved the quality of the work that they've done. So Roland, we hate ourselves. If you come to Teshinugwa Estate, in my constituency, Roland, the roads within the estates apparently was done during a Champions time. When they built that estate, Roland, to a larger extent, it's still about 70 to 80% intact.
I was in your constituency over the weekend.
Yes, Roland, the estate, Teshinugwa Estate. And in the a Champion, that's it's many years. I mean, more than 35 years ago.
Oh,
Past. Roland, still 80% in good shape.
Years,
just a few potholes here and there. How come we have roads built 2016, 2015, maybe even 2017? You never know, Roland. And within months,
2017 roads were.
No. The point I want to, you see, sometimes when you talk, someone will say that, oh, doctor is conveniently mentioning roads that were done before his government. But I want to bring to the table the issue of substandard road construction, whether it was in James era or in Ekufado's era. Whoever finds such a substandard road, we must have a discussion on the table on how to make sure that when we give money to contractors, they give us value. Who were working during a Champions time? They were not aliens from outside this space. These were Ghanaian contractors and foreign contractors, and we're in the same global environment. How come when we do roads now? And Roland, the vicious cycle is what is worrying. You've invested, I used the Lekman Road, before they started this, apparently about 40 to 50 million Ghana cedis has already gone into it. And then you have more money supposed to go into it to complete it. You go to certain places, they've done a road that costs, let's say, 100 million Ghana cedis. The road is bad. You get a new contractor, he tells you, we need 150 million. Meanwhile, all you needed was, let's say, 120 million to have done a good road for 10 years. So we must have an honest discussion. Now, we must come to the realization that there are a few projects that do not end with finishing the contract or doing the job. But the follow-up should be part of the signing. Roland.
Meaning what, like patching or?
No, I'm told that in certain countries, when they sign a road contract, they add that any works to be done, let's say, 7 years. Not, I hear people talk about...
It's done in Ghana too, but only that the years are less.
Yeah, Ghana, they talk about this, they have a liability, liability period. Yeah. My brother,
it's only not, for a year or two.
Yes. It's not significant. And some of them, even when there's a mess during that period, you don't see them acting. Roland, how many places, let's document this, let's try to do some audit. How many contractors have gone back to a road after having demobilized? That's the word, right?
Yes.
How many
decommission?
How many contractors after decommissioning have gone back to a particular road? Not because they've been given money, but on their own accord to obey a clause that says that liability. It doesn't happen. Roland, I tell people all the time, you don't need to reinvent. Whatever people are doing elsewhere, which makes their contractors behave themselves, lift it and implement it. Let's have 5-year period. Immediately you do that, there are some contractors, they will not come for contracts. Roland, if you are given a road and there's a mess, go back to it. If you don't, any other contract you come for,
so the
you are
new
blacklisted.
contracts that The Minister of Roads is giving.
Yeah.
And that.
Roland.
Is there also?
Roland.
Are you just speaking a general mind? Or
yes.
General?
When
you are being idealistic.
No, it's not idealistic. Once it's being done in other jurisdictions, it can be implemented. I am being nationalistic. That's the way.
Let me go to them, and then we'll see how much the president has promised to invest in the next.
Roland,
yes.
The billions.
The issue of roads is one that disturbs me a lot. Just yesterday, in fact, I traveled from Ho to Accra.
That road is bad.
That road is terrible. From Ho on Sunday, I went to Joje using the Ave road. That road is also in a very terrible condition.
They do the time.
The problem is that, Roland, we must be very, very, very frank when we come to the discussion on roads and the future of this country. It is very sad. Not long ago, I heard the Minister of Roads say that only about 23% of roads in this country are in good condition. That the rest of the 77% have never even seen bitumen before. But yearly, we see the amount of money that successive governments have dedicated to road construction.
In the budget.
In the budget. So the first question we must ask ourselves is that, are we getting value for money? It is sad that a road that is constructed less than 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, you travel on that road and it's in terrible condition.
But it means that the supervision was bad.
It is not just about the supervision. In fact, the processes that lead to the award of the contracts. Last week, I heard a group of contractors on radio, and they described themselves as NPP contractors. So to them, the contract was given to them because it is their party that is in power. When you get such people being awarded contracts,
the NDC also does it.
I will get there. The dedication to the work and the fact that they think that their president or the leader cannot hold them accountable because they are the people that finance the activities of these political parties who make them do the shoddy work that they have done. And it is the same as successive governments have suffered.
But
same.
If that has to be, we have to make sure they do the right thing.
I think that moving forward, Roland, one of the things I will strongly call for is for us to have a directory for our roads and national contracts, such that when you are going to bid for a contract,
we already have. We have the PPA that's supposed to make sure that
it's not even about the procurement process. I want us to look at it from this point, Roland, that when you are going to bid for a contract, and you tell us your track record that say you are the one that constructed this road or that road, we must move forward to go back to that road and see that 2 years, 3 years, 5 years after you have done it, what is the condition of that road? It is terrible that the country is losing so much resources because of this bad road network. As we are seated here, we are encouraging young people to go into agriculture. But do you know one of the reasons why young people are not interested in going into agriculture? Because when you look at the value chain, even transporting their finished product, the farm produce, from the farm to the market centers is difficult. Why? Because of bad roads. Yeah. I think that this road issue, all of us, the two political parties, all of us must have a frank conversation about how we can improve the road network in this country. Because, Roland, I tell people, last week, I saw a video of one district director of health who gave birth on the road. I mean, because on the way to the hospital, the road was so bad because it had rained.
She supervised?
Yeah.
She supervised the birth?
No, she herself was pregnant, and so she has her car. They were driving her. I'll share the video with you later. On the road, because of the bad nature of the road, because it had rained, the car got stuck, and in the process, she had to just deliver that way on the road. Now, I ask myself, when you are transporting your sick relative, and the road is bad, it's not a matter of NDC or NPP.
I'll share a story with you.
You are transporting.
There was some prominent who lost a relative. And
because of this,
and this one happened in one of the hospitals.
And I think that when you go, especially when you go to the Volta region, where I come from, Roland, our roads are in terrible condition.
Really?
I'm telling you, not long ago, I saw some activism by some young people who are calling for Volta roads, construct Volta roads and all of that. And my humble plea to this government is that, you see, we must get to a point where we understand that governance is in a continuum. You see, why is it that the NPP has halted most of the roads?
But Joe Mahama told all of us that he had constructed many roads.
No, the roads that he mentioned that he has constructed, he really has. But it doesn't mean that he never said he has constructed all roads in the region. But there are specific roads we are mentioning that have not been constructed. There are some also that they started. After change of government, these projects have been halted. For example, the Kpando Have whole road is still there. They started the construction. I mean, almost halfway through, change of government, project has been halted. We are told that they are auditing, they are doing a value for audit of the contractor and the contract and all of that. And it's almost 3 years. And when it rains, Roland, go and check. Send your men with camera to go and see that road. You really cannot even use that road. It's become, I mean, a road that is so bad that you cannot use. So I think that the government of the day has a responsibility to complete all the roads projects that was commenced by the previous administration. We must get to a point where when there's a change in government in 2021, for example, the NDC must be bold enough to complete all projects that the NPP government is starting. Because we are wasting taxpayers' money. It is not John Mohammed's money that he used to construct the road, where President Akufo-Addo will feel that by completing it, he will get the credit. It is not Akufo-Addo's money that he's using to construct the road, where when we come in 2020, we will say that because it is NPP that started, we will not continue. We must build a certain country where governance is really seen as benefiting the people of this country. The road network in this country, Roland, terrible, very terrible. And I think that the government of the day has a responsibility, especially even in the cocoa growing areas. Why have you stopped all the cocoa roads? These are issues that we should be talking about and finding solution for.
Roland, just recently, Cocoa Board released over 230 million Ghana cedis to go into cocoa roads. But on a lighter side,
announced, yeah.
Yes, on a lighter side, you know, one of my favorite adages or proverbs came from a Nigerian preacher in Action Chapel. I'll never forget. That's about 15 years ago. He said, in the absence of water, every lizard claims to be a crocodile. You see, it is in the presence of rains that you see roads that are good and those that are phantom. Or if you turn it another way, when you play propaganda with roads, the rains will expose you. Yes. You know, the number of roads, the percentage of roads in the Volta region, that let's granted, were started by JM, but have not been continued by us, will not amount to 10% of the roads in the Volta region, which he himself will admit.
No.
What it means is that we have a vast number of roads that need attention. And we are a country that, of course, based on our influence, we cannot attend to all of them immediately. So what do? Quickly, as a nation, we have to think of other models. Roland, other models to give attention at least to roads in our communities. And you know what? Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, he was told by one particular chief, I think it was in Brongafo, that I thank God that you came here using your car and not in a helicopter.
Oh, I think the chief was at the Afram Plains.
Exactly,
yeah.
because
and you had to cross the Empire, so
yes. So we must learn as leaders. We must live and go through the life our people are going through. So we appreciate their concerns. Some leaders were in the air in helicopters, and that's why he told Nana. So he didn't need to explain their condition. As a leader in Lejokuku, I do it. There are times I tell my brother, let's use this route. He said, oh, but the other one, I said, no, I want to see what is happening here. So that when you feel it, you think more about how to solve it. So, my brother, I think those are the few things JM, I'm sure by now he has learned. It's good to go through the bad roads and identify. We were told that, oh, infrastructure is unprecedented. The roads have been fixed and all that. Roland, me, I learned my lessons. Because of the song they sang, I'm not quick to be singing. That's why when you raise roads, I'm being calm here. I don't want to behave like because we are mentioning billions, all is well.
Oh, but you mentioned 80%. The Minister of Communications, 80% of the promises have been. You brought this one.
You want to push me? You want to push it?
No. You leave it.
My point is that we should be calm. We should admit that we have a huge issue with roads. This government has dedicated about. Recently the Finance Ministry is about to release about 3 billion or so to contractors. Roland, as we release, we must do follow-ups. But in all this, Roland, we need to be humble and think of other models, Roland, especially for sustenance, Roland. Not just doing the road, but to sustain it. I share in your grief, my brother. The more you experience bad roads in the Volta region, the more you should learn, the more I should also learn that there is a lot of work ahead of us. And sometimes we should be moderate when we say that we've done infrastructure that is unprecedented and all that. You know, you understand? We should be moderate.
Well, I think that, it's not. The former president was right when he said that fixing roads in the Volta region and infrastructure in the Volta region under his reign was unprecedented. I can give you a tall list of roads that were fixed under the NDC government. We can take it constituency by constituency, and I'll mention them. I have all of them. No, it's significant.
Don't go to list. I have list. I don't want us to. Yeah, let's move from those.
I agree with you. But my point is that my point is that we moved from somewhere. You see, development.
Go through the list.
I should go through the list. When you take Central.
This one was done by John Mama.
Central Tongue, for example. Yes, Central Tongue, for example. Let me even start from whole Central.
The more angry the viewers get.
Central Tongue, whole Central, for example. CK Runabout to Dabra Road. We have the Shia Ave Road, Mache to Kwe to Clave Road, asphalting of whole roads. Yes. They were completed. These were the completed roads in the Volta region.
When you went.
No, I'm saying that I mentioned specific roads that are bad. For example, from Adomi Bridge to Ho, that road is in bad condition.
That we are working on. But when we get into that business, what we end up doing is that I've done work, you've done work.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that the NDC actually fixed a lot of roads in the Volta region. However, there are specific roads that are left that we actually started. Even the Ho to Accra Road, we started it. When you get to the Sokode Junction, the construction has halted because there's been change of government. We couldn't have completed all those roads in 4 years. So you start. So a serious government comes, it must continue.
A viewer who is struggling through a bad road, who hears you citing roads you've completed in the Volta region, who is either in Greater Accra,
but there are many roads in Greater Accra.
That's why I'm telling you that the way to approach these things is not to start recounting what you think you've done, but to speak about models that can address the problem.
Okoboy, what's your first name usually?
Don't see it.
Benjamin.
Like it.
Bernard.
Yes. Benjamin.
Bernard.
Dr. Bernard Okoboy, Member of Parliament for Lejokuku, medical doctor. Charlie, Achon, this weekend you are going to Lekma or to do some outreach?
Monday I was there.
Monday you were there.
Yeah.
All right. Eric Edem Agbana is Deputy National Youth Organizer, the NDC. Thank you, Charlie.
He's a big man in opposition.
Your kaftan this weekend are for
don't worry, I'll link you to my designer.
I beg you.
It's a good guy.
You appreciate the value of power when you are a very big man in opposition, because you are a big man, but when you are in the house, you know that.
Well, let's